So after Risky's Revenge, the series went back into hiding for a few more years. That is until Nintendo Power revealed Shantae and the Pirate's Curse in their November 2012 issue, and had the game as their spotlight for that month. I know Way Forward was well known back then, but still, an indie title getting the spotlight? Pretty impressive. Though I didn't have Nintendo Power anymore by that point, mainly because I learned that sites like YouTube were a thing. So I heard about it when the trailer for the game was first revealed, which was actually right in the middle of the Half-Genie Hero Kickstarter, which would be the 4th game in the series. Kind of odd, I know. But the game would finally come out for the 3DS on May 29th, 2014, and on Christmas Day that year for the Wii U, and then later on for Steam, Xbox One, and PS4. Which the PS4 version is going to be the one I play for this review, even though I own both the 3DS and Wii U versions as well. I like supporting indies, okay? Now there is a physical version of the game for the 3DS, that's $10 more than the digital version, but to be honest, all it really adds is a minigame and that's it. Then again, you do have the novelty of owning a Shantae game physically, so if you want to go for it, have at it. So Shantae 1 and Risky's Revenge didn't exactly hit all of the right notes for me to be able to recommend it easily, but Pirate's Curse looks to change almost everything. So is that going to lead to a better experience, or is it just going to be the same thing as the other two? Only one way to find out, so let's set sail and see if this game sinks or swims. I told you guys there was going to be pirate puns. And I'm not sorry. So, slight spoiler for the end of Risky's Revenge. It's not much, honestly, considering how little story there was in that game, but when you fought Risky, Shantae got tricked into losing all of her magic, making her from a half-genie into a full human. Even though she can still whip her hair like this without hurting her neck. Okay. Flash forward, the Pirate's Curse and Ammo Baron is causing havoc on Scuttletown, mainly because, well, he kind of owns the deed to the town now, so he can kind of do whatever he wants. And for attacking him, Shantae is fired from being the town guardian again, because the universe just can't let her keep her no-wage job for a week, otherwise Doomsday is gonna arrive. Well, Doomsday does kind of happen in a way, as Risky captures Shantae with a bathtub. Anyway, Risky shows that Mimic has been experimenting on one of her Tinkerbats and sees that as some form of attack. Suddenly, the Tinkerbat transforms into a Cacklebat. Risky sees this as a sign that the Pirate Master is returning, who was both Risky's former mentor and the one responsible for wiping out Sequin Land's genies long ago. Shantae, who doesn't want the world to end, and Risky, who doesn't want to be under the control of the Pirate Master again, agree to stop the dark magic all across the land and make sure the Pirate Master can't return. So we have a little bit more to the meat of our story this time. Still not that big in the grand scheme of things, but it gets the job done and actually does have an attempt to tell a story this time. You get backstory on Risky with her being a former member of the Pirate Master's crew. Shantae herself also gets some character development throughout, and even side characters like Roddy Tops get their time in the sun too. It makes it feel like a more prevalent story throughout, and you know, it works. It's not going to be a riveting tale by any means, but it makes the game overall a lot more memorable than the other two games I feel by default. Oh, and no MacGuffin plot holes like the elemental stones or the magic seals from the other two games. So that helps. Graphically, the game looks about the same as Risky's Revenge, but I do think it's overall better for a lot of little touches. With the screen being more zoomed out, it hides a lot more of the pixels, so the sprites actually look a lot higher quality to me. Not to mention that the new sprites look just as great, and they have so many little touches to them, like the heart shop owner. She blows her hair up to cover the other eye when you pass her to keep the consistency of the sprite. Stuff like that is everywhere in the game, and it's such a great attention to detail. The portraits have also been changed, and I have to say, these are nautical miles better than the ones in Risky's Revenge. Get it? Because nautical miles instead of regular miles? Okay, I'll just stop. For a bit at least. Anyway, not only is the quality of the art just better overall, but every character this time has more portraits to display different emotions. So it makes the scenes overall work a lot more, and you can get more out of them than just the one image per character like last time. Along with the portraits, selling the scenes is the script. I can barely remember any dialogue in Risky's Revenge, and the original had some lighthearted charm here and there, but Pirate's Curse, this game is funny. They actively went for humor throughout the entire game, and almost every joke hits its mark. I was either giggling or laughing out loud throughout the entire adventure, and even now it's still getting me to laugh on repeated playthroughs. I compare the humor a lot to Kid Icarus Uprising. It's a very similar kind of style with big punchlines, great NPC dialogue, and of course the references and destroying of the fourth wall. It makes it so I want to go and talk to every character in town, and it helps define their personalities even more. From Bolo having self-esteem issues, Sky having trouble keeping a man, Squid Baron recovering from post-boss syndrome, one of the best parts of the entire game, and of course Roddy Tops, but that one I'm gonna let you figure out for yourself. Not only that, but there's so many fun and interesting side characters as well, such as this tribe on Tanline Island that mistake everyone for being their princess, Sky's parents who are the kind of parents that embarrass their kid any chance they get, and of course I need to mention Branson. Just look at that character design and I think you can tell what they were going for with him. And yes, it's amazing. And then there's the matter of music. I'm sorry guys, but this soundtrack just kinda destroys the other two games so much in quality, it's not even funny. If you can't tell, that means I think it's really, really good. From the moment you hear the file select theme in Burning Town, you know you're in for something good. It's a very upbeat-filled soundtrack, but also has a lot of variety in the tracks, which for me, having a list with that much variety and they're still all that good is something to be proud of. You have your atmospheric tracks like Mudbog Island, the happy upbeat tracks like Scuttletown Fields, and your rock like the boss theme and especially the final boss. Though my favorite track of the game has to be Run Run Roddy Tops. That was the moment I knew I had to get the soundtrack. Though I can't help but think of Old Spice when hearing this song now. Don't ask. But you know, trying to describe the music, it's better if you hear some for yourself. You know, if Shantae were listening to that song in particular, the headbanging would make sense. So overall, the presentation blows the other two games out of the water. But is the gameplay enough to keep it from walking the plank? I warned you about the puns, and you're still here. That's kind of surprising. So Pirate's Curse has a lot of elements from the previous two games, but it also does a lot to change things up as well. You still search the land looking for dungeons, but the structure of the game is completely different from the previous two. First off, the game isn't entirely open world anymore. Instead, the game is broken up into 6 islands, being Scuttletown, Saliva, Spiderweb, Tanline, Mudbog, and Frostbite Island. You go to each island, perform some type of task to get the dungeon to open up, complete the dungeon, and set sail for the next one. Now, Shantae, being a full human instead of a genie, is no longer able to use the transformations from the previous games. Instead, she has to rely on Risky's pirate equipment hidden in each of the dungeons. Now, why doesn't Risky just use the equipment herself? Well, she believes a curse is on the equipment that will make her suffer the same fate as her men, and considering what happened to them, yeah. The equipment includes a pistol to attack from afar, a hat to glide down or catch updrafts, a scimitar used for a downward spike, boots that let you run really fast horizontally and take out anything in your way, and finally a cannon that lets you have 3 extra jumps. And also, because Shantae has no magic, the magic meter has been completely removed, and the item system has been somewhat restored back to how it was in Shantae 1, where items are bought in shops as well as extra moves, upgrades to the pirate equipment, and stuff to that nature. Though the only real returning items are the Pike Ball, Super Pike Ball, and potions. but the new ones are pretty helpful. You have auto potions, which refill your health when you're about to die, a pirate flare, which sends you back to the ship to save time on backtracking, a bubble that nullifies all enemy projectiles, and I do mean all enemy projectiles, monster milk and super monster milk, which beef up your damage output, and then that middle row is food items. You can't buy these in shops, but rather they drop from enemies in the overworld that you can use at any time. Enemies do also drop pike balls, bubbles, monster milk, and occasionally pirate flares as well. Within the island, you will also find heart squids and cackle bats. The heart squids are more like heart pieces this time from Legend of Zelda, as you need 4 of them in order to gain an extra heart, by smashing them flat. First the dog and now this, Shantae? Really? Okay. The cackle bats are mainly hidden in the overworld, and you need to fight them in order to reveal the dark magic in them. Then simply use your lamp to collect the magic. On a side note, you can actually use the lamp to bring in objects to you, such as money or heart refills, so keep that in mind. Now you want to collect the dark magic in order to get the good ending, and trust me, you're kind of robbing yourself of the finale if you don't go for all 20 of them. And then once you beat the game, you unlock Pirate Mode, where you get to start the game again with all the pirate equipment from the start. Basically to speedrun the game as fast as possible. And gameplay-wise, that's about it for Pirate's Curse. So what treasures are there to find in this game? Wait, did that one count? Or... next section. So I know thus far I haven't spent too much time in the good sections for this marathon, but trust me, that's about to change. Because Pirate's Curse does so much to make it a better experience than the other 2 games. The first big improvement is the game's speed. Just compare it to the previous 2 games. It's night and day how much faster the game is from just movement alone. Plus, the camera is even more zoomed out than it was in Risky's Revenge, so you can see more in front of you so you have a better chance to plan things ahead to keep things moving. But along with that, the pacing of the game doesn't drag out like the other 2 games. One of the big reasons why is the island approach. Each island is small and gets right to the point with what it wants to do, so you're never on one island for too long. Each of them has something different going on before you enter the dungeon. The first one, you need to platform your way across cliffs in order to open a dungeon down below the surface. While the second island, you need to get Roddy Tops to safety without running into anything. And the third island, you need to stay out of sight in order to rescue your friends from each of their cells. Each island is changing things up so you're never bored while getting to the dungeon, keeping you constantly engaged. And even when you need to backtrack in some cases to open up the dungeon, the smaller size of the islands make it so you can quickly grab what you need and get back out. You can even use a pirate flare to eliminate the back trip completely. And if you know what you need to get, you can go to the area ahead of time and grab the item, saving you time in the long run, rewarding players who think to explore. This is so much better compared to Shantae 1, and especially Risky's Revenge when it comes to revisiting areas. And when you revisit areas, you can usually find heart squids easily with your powers, and because they're all around you and you only need 4 to upgrade your health, as well as the dark magic needed for the best ending, you actively want to hunt them down this time, and it adds reason to explore the world more than the other 2 games. Not to mention, this time you have a proper Metroidvania map that fills in the areas you've been to. So if there's an empty space, you know to go back there once you have the proper upgrade. So it makes it easy to backtrack and go for 100% this time. Also, unlike Risky's Revenge, the map continues into dungeons as well, which really helps when navigating through them so you're never lost. Speaking of the dungeons, it's hard to find a dull moment in them, and I think every dungeon hits its mark in terms of feeling different, challenging your abilities, and being satisfying to go through. And a big part of that is the usefulness of the pirate equipment. And I'm not even gonna hide it or make a map for it. My pun game is getting real bad. We're just gonna stop with that for now, so, yeah. Like I was saying, I'm not gonna hide it. The pirate gear completely destroys the animal transformations in every category for me. No ifs, ands, or buts. And as to why is 2 big reasons: speed and practicality. I said several times in this marathon that I didn't like the transformations because they pause the action of the game in order to use them. Here, just one simple button press and bam, the pirate gear activates. The only exception is for the boots, but considering how good they are, I'll let that one slide. The game doesn't pause when they're being used, which keeps things moving. And unlike the transformations where they were used only as a means to break something like the elephant, or were underutilized like the harpy or mermaid, every single one of the pirate gear items are essential for your quest. The pistol is great as a form of combat from a long distance and is needed to flick switches. The pirate hat is great for platforming and a must for mobility. The scimitar is needed for downward progression and is the most powerful gear in the game when it's upgraded. The boots let you steamroll through enemies and are easily the best form of mobility in the game. And the cannon lets you explore anywhere in the world, no problem. All of them are welcomed and not a single one feels out of place or underutilized. Plus, the level design will actively combine the pirate gear in several ways, such as using the hat, boots, and cannon to travel a large gap, using the pistol, hat, and scimitar to clear out platforms, or using the hat with the pistol or scimitar for combat. They all feel like natural elements to Shantae's moveset, which allows for a lot more interesting and sophisticated level design, and makes it feel like you can really think outside the box with them. To be honest guys, during the last two games, in the back of my mind, I was missing the pirate gear from this game, because it's such a better design tool for Shantae than the transformations, and it's a big reason why playing Pirate's Curse is so much fun. The moves can also be upgraded from the shop, which has been greatly improved. The biggest improvement is the removal of the magic jams, so now it's straight up cash, which I'm thankful for. And said money is very plentiful, especially on Tan Line Island. And since enemies now drop health items and items like pike balls, you can use that cash on stuff that really matters, like hair upgrades and pirate gear upgrades, increasing that sense of progression in your abilities, and I love that. And as if that wasn't enough, you unlock pirate mode where you have all the gear right from the get-go, so you can get stuff like the heart squids and cackle bats way earlier, and get through the game much faster as a result. Which is a much better incentive to replay the game compared to the magic mode from Risky's Revenge. But even then, the main game alone just has a lot more replayability than the previous two titles, because of the speed and pacing, every island being different, having key memorable events along with great comical writing makes it so I want to go back to the game time and time again to re-experience the adventure, and at no point does it feel like it overstays its welcome, which keeps the lifespan of the game strong. And the barrier of entry is very approachable, as it's pretty balanced on the challenge factor, and players can use stuff like heart squids and auto potions if they need a little extra boost. But the game will put your skills to the test in various sections. Don't worry, it's nothing too hard. They're not expecting you to be perfect, but it will keep your skills in check so you don't doze off like in Risky's Revenge. Mostly in sections like Roddy Tops, Tan Line Temple, the dungeons, and of course the boss fights, which are probably the best set of bosses yet. They're all big, daunting, and will require you to use your pirate gear in order to take them out, having different strategies. Most of said strategies involve taking everything you learned about the gear you just acquired and combining it with your other equipment. And that final boss can really put up a fight, especially if you're going for the no-hit run. There's so much that this game does right, there shouldn't be any negatives, right? Right? I won't lie, there are a few things that bug me about Pirate's Curse, but to be honest, they're not big in the grand scheme of things, but you should probably know about them going in. There still is a problem with backtracking in the early parts of the game, mainly when you get to Tan Line Temple and getting the code in order to enter the door. I'm talking about this one in particular because it's one of the few times where you can't get it ahead of time. But most of the time the backtracking is overall scarce, and you have tools like pirate flares to make it more manageable than ever. And to be fair, it's nowhere near as bad as the other two games when it comes to this. And while the difficulty is pretty gradual, there are a few weird difficulty spikes in a few spots. Two of the prime culprits being Run Run Roddy Tops and the final chapter. Run Run Roddy Tops gets a lot of hate because of how early it is, and how one touch sends you all the way back to the start of the screen, and requires you to be a bit more precise than normal. But to be honest guys, I don't think it's that bad. Just take your time with it and don't try to rush it too fast. Trust me, if I can get the no-hit achievement, you can do it too. The other area is the final dungeon, which is easily the hardest part of the game. And yeah, your first time here, you're gonna lose a lot of health. But I do like this area as a final level because it really is putting all your skills to the test that you learn throughout the game. And it's a great overall note to end the game on. But I do agree that some sections like the Donkey Kong barrel-like section and the pirate hat section get a little too tight for their own good. Just bring a lot of health restoring items and you should be fine. But if there's one part of the game I'm really not a fan of, it's Mudbog Island. Not so much the second half of it, but more the first part, where I think they get a little too happy with the enemy placement because they are everywhere. And it kind of feels like Shantae won with all the cheap shots. It's odd considering that the island after it, Frostbite, is nowhere near as treacherous. All I can say is bring Monster Milk, Super Pike Balls, Pirate Flares, and lots of healing items. And as for the dungeon here, the only part I really didn't like was the platform puzzle here, because I don't think it's clear enough on how it works, and it's a little confusing. You should figure it out soon enough, but I'm not always clear on what I'm supposed to do here. I guess another little nitpick would be the two bonus areas, the Gauntlet and the Hidden Dungeon, which is actually a recreation of the first dungeon from Shantae 1. My problem is, you really don't get anything for doing them besides an achievement. And I mean, they are cool extras, but I would have liked some kind of reward for going through them because they feel kind of here for no reason. And you don't even need to do them in order to get 100%, which strikes me as odd. And I guess a problem for some people may be the price. It's 20 bucks digitally, which is a little higher than normal for an indie title, which might turn some people off. But for me personally, that doesn't really get in the way of things because I think it completely earns its $20 price tag. Why? Do I really need to repeat myself? Well, some of you haven't bought the game yet, so I guess I need to. I mean, you talk about a jump in quality. Now let me make this clear. The other two games weren't necessarily bad, but Pirate's Curse? I feel like this was the kind of game I was looking for this entire marathon. It fixes the pacing, every island is memorable for the right reasons, the pirate gear is a great tool for Shantae, the dialogue is funny and memorable, the dungeons are well designed, the bosses are fun, the soundtrack's fantastic, the entire game's fantastic. It's not even a contest with the original trilogy of games. Pirate's Curse for me without question is the best of them. And honestly, this one is a great starting point if you haven't tried out the series yet. And it makes me happy to say this for the first time in the Shantae series. I can finally recommend this one to anyone and highly recommend it at that. It goes on sale all the time if you want to pick it up then. And if it does, do it. This game absolutely gets my recommendation. Way forward, you've done good. And hopefully you guys will be able to give it a shot and become just as hooked as I was. Ha! Well, on a better note, things are finally looking up for the Shantae Marathon. I mean, Pirate's Curse was great, and we actually only have one stop left, and that's Shantae Half-Genie Hero, which is actually Shantae's first console-exclusive adventure, which is definitely looking to change things up, and I can't wait to get started on that one. Now, as a backer of that Kickstarter, I need to get to work, so I'll see you guys later. Next review, no more pirate puns. Maybe.